Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So as you might have seen, all of the Descent of Dragons cards have been revealed today, so I wanted to make a video and talk about just the Mage cards for now. I did a full card review on my Facebook stream, so you can find the VOD in the description if you're interested in that, and also the spreadsheet of all of my scores. But for this video, I'm just going to focus on the new Mage cards and a few relevant neutrals that are going to go in the decks that I've theory crafted, which you'll see later. So yeah, I'll start with Elemental Allies. This is a side quest. If you haven't seen these yet, they're one of the new keywords in Descent of Dragons, so it's kind of like a real quest, but it won't start in your hand like a normal quest. You can just draw it whenever, and then once you play it, it's just a reward like a regular quest, but it's easier to complete with a slightly worse reward than a normal quest. So this one is play an elemental 2 turns in a row. Draw 3 spells from your deck. I didn't expect to see another elemental synergy this expansion, but here we have one. 2 turns in a row. It's pretty interesting, but I just don't really think there's gonna be great elemental mage decks. Like, to be able to consistently play 2 in a row, and then you're also running a card like this. This one doesn't stand out as very good to me. The reward is pretty good. Draw 3 spells from your deck is really good and worth maybe 4 or 5 mana, but I just don't think a deck can realistically build this and then really benefit from drawing those 3 spells. It'd have to be something really specific, maybe a combo spell deck that can also play elementals easily. Too bad we don't have Firefly anymore. So I would give this one a 1 out of 4. 4 being the best and 1 being the worst. Death Rattle, add an Arcane Missles spell to your hand. So we don't see these too often. Mage 1 mana minions, it's always a 1 mana spell or just a more expensive minion. So I was excited to see a 1 mana mage minion, although the effect is 1/1 Death Rattle, add missiles, so it's kind of like Babbling Book, except you know what you're gonna get. And I like that part of it, so you know you're gonna get an Arcane Missles. It's just not too many decks really benefit from an Arcane Missles, but this deck seems perfect for an aggressive mage deck, because Arcane Missles is a good aggressive card. You can pair it with spell damage, and it's good with Cyclone too. It's just the 1 mana 1/1 is often not really worth a card, I mean with the missiles as well. It's a Death Rattle too, so the fact that it's not a battle cry, you can't really get immediate value. Doesn't make me think that it's a very good 1-drop, sadly. Definitely not a Mana Worm level 1-drop. I think this one's a 1 out of 4 for me as well. 1 is unplayable, and 4 is like really good auto-include. 2 and 3 is kind of in between. Mana Giant. This one is really cool. I also didn't expect Mage to get a Giant. Costs 1 less for each card you've played this game that didn't start in your deck. So my first thought was Conjurer's Calling, how cheap and how fast can I get it? And I thought about this one a lot. It's really hard to say. It starts at 8 mana, so you only need to play a few spells really to make it playable, but how fast can we make it like 1 or 2 or even 0 mana? Because with cards like Magic Trick, and you can go Magic Trick sometimes into Magic Trick, into something else, and really speed this up. And then if you're doing your Cyclone turns, you also will usually get some cheap spells. There's a couple new cheap spells too that they added that can help this come down sooner. So I actually do think this one has a ton of potential. It's just really hard to say how good exactly. I just think it has a lot of potential to be good. And I think this could even fit in Cyclone Mage. You'll see what I theory crafted later with this. And it seemed to fit in the Cyclone Mage base pretty well because it should synergize with cards like Banana Buffoon, right? I would assume that a banana would buff this, meaning it would fit pretty well into Cyclone Mage, I think. That would be reduced by 2, and you conjures it. Khadgar conjures. I'm just not sure if it's better than Sea Giant or Mountain Giant, but I was thinking maybe run all 3 of the Giants. It'll definitely be interesting though. Then we got Rolling Fireball. So this is the new Mage removal. Single target removal is pretty cool because Mage was sort of, after Meteor left, we were pretty lacking on the single target removal. Zephyr kind of had to take that role a lot of the time in my Mage games. So this one will deal 8 damage to a minion, and then excess damage continues to the left or right. So this is some RNG right here, because if you put it on, say, the middle minion, it's or left or right, so who knows which way it's gonna go. It's 50-50, assuming there's a minion on both sides. But if you can guarantee which way it'll go if you put it on the far left or the far right, or there's just no minions on the left or right. I really wish this card kept bouncing until there were either no minions left or until it was 0 damage left. That'd be so cool, but from the text I'm assuming it just ends after it hits the first minion to either the left or the right. But if it did like a trickle effect, like a rock skipping, that would be super cool. But I think it's a good spell. I'd give this one a... I'm between a 2 or a 3. I don't think it's super valuable, but it's close to a 3, but I think I'm going to settle on a 2. But it's very close to a 3. Mage already has some pretty good removal, so I'm not sure if we really need this. I mean, single target removal, like I said, is hard to come by, but we are pretty tight for spots in the deck. But I still do want to definitely try it out in Reno Mage, and I think it'll be good in Reno Mage, just maybe not amazing. Then we got Dragoncaster. Ooh, I like this card. So, more dragon synergy. It's not actually a dragon itself, which is kind of confusing, because when you look at the art, you see this dragon with a huge smile. And it has dragon in the name, so don't get this confused with the dragon, which shouldn't be a huge deal. The deck I theory crafted had a ton of dragons, so I don't really think there's any issue with dragons, having not enough dragons, rather. Especially by turn 6. So I think this fits well in the one of Reno style deck. It helps you play Pocket Galaxy, Power of Creation, and most importantly Puzzle Box earlier, coin it on 5 or play it on 6. And 6 mana puzzle boxes are extremely good. They get a lot worse at 10, but at 6 you sort of get that value in board sometimes that you can't really get on turn 6, but you can get on turn 10, so it's good there. And then you can also just play it with Blizzard, Flame Strike, anything really, and it's just a free 4/4 similar to Arcane Tyrant. And you can even do some cool combos with it. So on 10 mana you can do Pyroblast with the Dragoncaster for 6 mana, and then Fireball for 16 to maybe follow up an Alex, or even OTK with an Alex if you Luna's Pocket Galaxy it to 1 mana. So I think this is a pretty cool one. It's kind of like Naga Sandwich, but I think it's a bit more reliable since you don't risk increasing the cost of any cheap spells. Like you can run Ray of Frost without risking that. But yeah, I like it. I think it's a 3. It's not amazing, but I think it's a 3. I'm going to give it a 3. Pretty generous to the Mage cards this time around, actually. I believe I initially gave it a 2, but I'm going to bump that up to a 3. Arcane Breath. Another 1 mana Mage spell. Well, it's not a side quest, so it's pretty different. Deal 2 damage to a minion. If you're holding a dragon, discover a spell. Kind of reminded me of Arcane Blast. Deal 2 damage to a minion. 2 damage to a minion's not that bad on its own for 1 mana. Similarly, Arcane Shot from Hunter, but obviously better. If you're holding a dragon, so looks like they're trying to push a little bit the dragon and spell synergy, but discovering a spell is pretty good. It's not bad. It's just not many decks that hold dragons really synergize well with this. Like for example, I wouldn't really want to play Cyclone Mage with dragons in it. That would be really awkward to run dragons in Cyclone Mage, at least from what I understand. I know there is a good 5 mana dragon that adds 1-cost spells as well that could synergize with Cyclone Mage. But it is really good if you have a dragon, though. It's just, like, can I ever put this in a deck? Because I'll never have a dragon. But yeah, so I kind of just gave it a 2 because I don't think the synergies are good enough, but the card on its own is fine. I think it's a solid 2. Chanvala. So this is the first Mage Legendary minion. Oh wow. I actually had in my notes that it's like Dragon Soul, but I'm just looking here, the flavor text. Like the Dragon Soul, if dragons had souls of ice. I didn't notice that, huh. So after you cast 3 spells in a turn, summon a 5/5 elemental. I should have read that first. That's like Dragon Soul, the priest weapon. It's the same thing, except this is a minion, which I think is actually a little better. But the main part why I think this is way better than the priest Dragon Soul weapon is because it's a mage card. And no, that's not just unnecessary mage bias. That's like, mage has super good synergy with spells. Well, I mean, Cyclone Mage, right? That priest doesn't quite have, or never really quite had, even with Shadow Vision, so it's pretty easy to play 3 spells. We also got twin spells. Ray of Frost, that's already 2/3 of the way there. Tack on a Khadgar, you're making 2 5/5 elementals. It's a pretty cool card. It's just not super reliable, but since it is 2/5 stats, you can kind of just play it on turn 3, and it's pretty unlikely that it dies, or if it does, it requires a bit of work to remove. And any like 3 mana card that is really threatening to your opponent, even if you like just drop it on the board, is pretty good. Kind of similar to Luna, except with 5 health. I know I would be scared if I saw my opponent drop this on turn 3. Yeah, I'll try this out in Cyclone. I'm pretty excited to try it. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's solid. It's a solid 1-of card in Cyclone Mages, and any Cyclone Tempo Mage, I think it's a good 1-of. Just because it's so easy to play spells. And it's also an elemental, which if you ever have like an extra elemental evocation that you just don't really need, or you discover one, you can throw it on this and then make it even cheaper on your Cyclone turn as well. So it's pretty nice. I like this card. I give it a 3 out of 4. Not quite 4, but I give it a 3. And then we got Malighost. So this is the second mage legendary. I really like this one too, although both the legendaries are pretty impressive. If you're holding a dragon, discover a mage spell. It's a dragon itself too, which is great. Oh, I'll show you the upgraded mage spells. So they're kind of just the basics, but upgraded, you'll see. So here they are. Sorry, I have a bit of a cough. My voice sounds weird. So yeah, there's quite a few. Takes a second to process them, but there's 9. It's Discover, so you'll get to choose 3. Well, based on the 3 it gives you. And then they're all, I like that they're all very different. I guess that's kind of some of the reasons that I like the Mage Basic set so much, is that it can do everything, right? The Mage Basic set can freeze, draw, hard removal, AoE, and burn. And this sort of upgrades that, so I'll start at Flame Strike. Deal 8 to enemy minions for still 7 mana, but dealing 8 AoE is pretty crazy. So I think that one's probably not going to be picked too often, but there will be some times where you just don't need any of this stuff, and it's like, oh, I'll take a board clear. Like if I'm against a Shaman and I don't really need this, or the Frostbolt, or the Malighost, I'll just take the Strike and save it for later. Fireball, it's nice to have a burn option, so turn 9, you can maybe just need that deal 8, play Malighost, get the deal 8, hit them for, finish them off with that. So it's nice to have that option at least. Malighost Explosion, this one's 2 mana Consecrate, well, deals to minions, not face, but not a bad option to have. I don't think it's the best one, but it's sometimes good to have. 7 mana, you need to deal 2. You always maybe have that option. 0 mana Bolt. I like this one. This one makes it so sometimes you can do a 5 mana play with this. So you can go just Mali Bolt basically for 5 mana, or even 4 mana if you coin it. So it's pretty nice just for some really fast tempo. Really need removal for cheap. You got it there. And you can also save it too and combo it with cards like Anton, Cyclone, and just really anything a 0 mana can combo with. Intellect, this one's probably one of the best ones. 3 mana draw 4 is insane. I mean, there's so many games where you just need cards, and then you get this one, 3 mana draw 4, you draw cards and have a turn still, whereas Sprint, you probably wouldn't have a turn still. It'd be 7 mana. So I like this as an option. Missiles, this one's also kind of similar to Fireball, but not the best one. Deal 6, so it's kind of just double missiles. I can't see it being picked too often over the other ones. That one seems a bit of a low roll, but it can still do stuff occasionally. It's cheap. Might need a cheap one. Then there's Nova. kind of just 1-mana Nova. That can be great to pull you out of a tough spot where you maybe ran out of Friz or just need another Friz, and now we kind of have another Friz in the deck, so always nice to have that. Poly, another one that's nice to have. There's pretty much everything, like I said, so 1-mana Poly, I mean, is really, really good. And then this one I actually like too. It's similar to Intellect. Add 3 random mage spells to your hand for 1 mana. That's super cheap for good value. So maybe you're playing Cyclone Mage, and you just take this, and it has some good synergy with some of the new cards as well. So yeah, overall I really like this card. I do think it's good as well. I would give it a 4. Yeah, I'm excited to play some Mali Reno Mage. Is there Explorer? So this is the non-legendary dragon that we got. Wasn't too happy with this one. I was happy with the other ones, but this one is a bit underwhelming to me. It's not terrible or anything, but just 4 mana, 2/3, spell damage +2. If I go into the Mage collection, I will see 2 very, very similar cards. Cosmic Anomaly and Kirintor Tricaster are just so similar to this that it kind of just makes me, I don't know, like it just feels unnecessary. Like, sure, it discovers a dragon, that's good value, but doesn't really make up for the 2/3 stat line. And then if we need spell damage, like we can probably run one of the other ones, and discovering a dragon could occasionally like high roll you Malygos or something like that, but I don't think this one's great. I would give it a 1. But it's not even that bad. It could honestly be a 2. I actually think I gave it a 2 in my set review. Sort of between a 1 or a 2 on this one, but I think I'd settle on a 1. Just seems a bit too slow. And then there's the third spell, or the second side quest, Learn Draconic. Spend 8 mana on spells, and then summon a 6/6. Spending 8 mana on spells in Mage isn't the hardest thing to do, but all you really get is a 6/6 dragon, so not a huge fan of that. I feel like it needs, I don't know, Rush, Charge, something, Taunt, Divine Shield, or anything really, just to give it a little bit more than a 6/6, because 8 mana is hard to do. Let's say you're Cyclone Mage, like, in a Cyclone turn you don't spend 8 mana on spells. Most of your mana goes to playing like Sork's Apprentice, or you just are still pretty low on mana, so it is fine to sort of just play it early and get a 6/6 later, but I don't think that's worth running a card in my deck for, so I think I'd give this one a 1. Yeah, that's it for the Mage cards. So there's a few neutrals that I wanted to talk about before I show you my theory crafted decks. Just because you would be sort of confused if you haven't seen these cards before. So this one is pretty much a Mage card to me. If your deck has no duplicates, add 2 random dragons to your hand. They cost 0. Oh man. 0 mana dragons times 2. Seems pretty insane. I mean, not like deck making insane, just a good late game threat that is very scary. And like, if you don't want to overextend your board, you could save one of the dragons and then play it for free later. You can high roll Alexstrasza, Caligos, or just so many different dragons I could name that are high rolls. And there's few low rolls, very few low rolls. So this one's a 4 for me, easy 4. It has no duplicates, but Reno Mage is already a great deck, so lucky for me. I'm happy to see this one. It's pretty much a Mage card in my heart. So yeah, this one's a 4. And then there's one more legendary. Where is he? That I really liked. Well, I kind of liked. Oh, here we are. Friz Kindle Roost. Reduce the cost of dragons in your deck by 2. 4 mana, 5/4. So the stat line is really surprisingly good. Like, the effect is good, but for the effect with the stat line, I thought it was really good. Because 4 mana, 5/4 is already a good enough stat line. I mean, but for an effect like this, it can reduce, well, just so many different things, of course. It is only a 1-of because it is a legendary, but yes, this is another 3200 golden legendary I'm going to have to craft. Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be an expensive expansion for me. I think that's all the neutrals I actually wanted to talk about. So yeah, I'll go on to the theory crafted decks now. here's deck number 1 that I built. This was sort of my spin on Cyclone Mage. I didn't go too crazy with like new archetypes. I sort of just tried to build off the tried and true ones. So Cyclone Mage, what the heck is that? It's supposed to be a Chenvala, I guess. So yeah, I'll just kind of run down quickly. There's still all the standard Cyclone cards, the spells, the core spells, CAD, Cyclone, Prentice, AI, Buffoon, the core, and then you got Chenvala in there, 2 Nova, and Luna, Conjurer, Zilly, the core, and then the late game is Giant, Giant, Giant. So if you thought 4 Giants was a lot, try 6. But I've thought about it a fair amount, so you have to play probably 6-ish, 5, 6 cards maybe for this to be good and maybe comboable. Technically, you don't need to play much to make it comboable, which is why I like it. Like, you really don't need to play that much for this card to be good and conjureable or with the Khadgar in the late game. So I do think it has potential, and then you get Buffoon. I'm assuming if it works like any other card like this, the bananas will count towards the effect, which is amazing because they're basically 0 mana spells once you get the Sorks down, and then yeah, with all these Cyclone spells can really reduce this guy. So I think this deck actually has a lot of potential with the addition of Chenvala and Mana Giant. That's really all that I added though from the old cards. And this one is also really excited for. This one is the Reno one, so it'll be a little harder to see. I'll have to scroll here. So I tried to go for a more minion heavy build. I believe this one has 11 spells total, or 11 or 12. But I did decide to include Book just because there's so many good minions. You got Pocket Galaxy for Book, and just lack of card draw really outside of the Book and Intellect. Alright, so I got sort of the core. I'll just sort of skip over the core quickly. I got Doomsayer, Zephyr Reno, the spells, Blizzard, Flame Strike, Polymorph, Conjurer's Calling, Pocket Galaxy, Power of Creation, and I decided to go with Puzzle Box. So kind of just the spells, they're pretty impactful. This build is a bit greedy, so if I want to tech for aggro, there's a lot of room to tech. Pretty much like any Reno Mage deck, you'll see there's tons of spots to cut stuff or something else, but this one I favored the new cards a little bit to try them out, and also just a good greedy day 1 build. And it could still fare against aggro, but there's definitely room to tech. So for the new cards, the more interesting ones, well, I guess Witch Doctor. We get to see Witch Doctor again. It's great with dragons. This deck will have no issue with dragons because all you really need is just draw this, or this, like early-ish game, and then you're pretty much just always going to have a dragon as long as you have one of these, but there's still so many other dragons. This is a dragon, this is a dragon, this is a dragon. So yeah, I'm not worried about the dragon synergy. In fact, I've played mage decks, dragon mage decks in the past. Well, Huntrace actually won Worlds with Conjure Dragon Mage, in fact. So Dragon Mage has definitely been good before. Luna for Pocket Galaxy, Keysmith. Then I have this Poacher card, which I talked more about in my card review. It's kind of like Hungry Crab, and I don't really enjoy it. Like, it will not be too fun if my opponents will play this on turn 4 versus me, but I guess I don't really play dragons early on anyways. Got Friz in there, which is why I talked about him. I think Friz fits pretty well in this deck. I can't see many better decks for Friz than this, well, I guess just more dragon heavy decks. But I think reducing some of these dragons is amazing. Get an earlier Dragon Queen Alex, Callie, Malygos, and Cobalt. And Twilight Drake. Might add a few more dragons as well. There's always options for dragons. What else? Rolling Fireball. I'm going to try that one out. I think it can make the cut in Reno. It just sort of depends what the opponents are playing and if the removal really lines up against most of the boards right now, or like maybe if I need a wider AoE rather than single target, then I could maybe cut it. Kind of feels like it goes in that Voodoo Doll spot when we used to run Voodoo Doll for single target removal. Big ol' well. This one I actually didn't talk about. 5 mana, 5. Oh, can I click it? Ooh, cool. 5 mana, 5/5. Battle card, draw card. So I'm not sure if I needed this one. I like the extra little bit of card draw, and then it's another dragon, and then you can reduce it with Friends, but we really don't need that much dragon synergy, as I was saying. We got a ton, but I did want to try this one. It's actually like Azure Drake, but probably better because most decks didn't really need the spell damage that much, but it's very similar to Azure Drake. Alright, well that's it for my Mage review. Thanks for watching. Links will be in the description to the full card review and to my social media. And yeah, just make sure to subscribe if you're interested in more Hearthstone content, actually probably gameplay next video I make. And yeah, hopefully playing games with these new decks. Alright, see ya.